All right, I think we are live. Welcome. My name is Andy Tran with InnerBark Outdoors, and we're going to be doing a live chat with WINGMAN115. Wingman, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, folks. I'm John with the WINGMAN115 channel. Andy and I have been doing these live chats now for about a month and a half. We've been kind of meeting about every 2 weeks. We're trying to do twice a month, and we're trying to do themed shows. Tonight, we're going to be doing a topic on preparedness and some of the items that you purchase. I know that folks sometimes purchase, they want value gear, but we're trying to find good value gear, but also when you should make that next step and upgrade. So it should be a fun night, and we invite all you to either comment on the YouTube side or on the Google Plus side.
Yep. But the thing about the Google Plus side is I'm going to have to find out how exactly to look at that stuff, because this is new to me. Google Plus in itself, when you're not in a live chat, is already complicated enough.
Yeah, we're definitely a work in progress.
Right. Well, I guess one of the first things, and I guess I don't know if it's the same thing with you, but a lot of people seem to be asking me about knives. I think out of all questions about equipment and gear, I get asked most about, well, I got this much money, what kind of knife should I get? Do you get that similar experience?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll get it either in an email or I'll get it in a private message, especially after I post a review on a knife. A lot of folks have questions. Should I get a full tang knife? Should I get a folder? Should I get a value knife? When do I upgrade? And tonight we're going to discuss some of those questions. If you have any questions and concerns in regards to that, we're going to be talking about stoves. We're going to be talking about quite a bit of stuff tonight. It's going to be jam-packed, so if you don't see something the first couple of minutes, stay tuned because we'll probably cover it tonight.
That's right. So I guess, I mean, we're probably on the same level of understanding when it comes to the very first knife you should get for doing survival and or bushcraft, fieldcraft type stuff. And I think we both have the same exact knife for beginners when we take out, guests or family, right?
It was funny, folks, when we were getting ready to go live, I go, hey, I got the perfect knife that we can show folks. So I whip this out, and then he goes, yeah, I have the same knife. And I'm like, man, we're like twins over here, the Bobbsey twins of knives.
Yeah, well, these things should go out with like samples of Tide in the newspaper pretty much. They come in either stainless steel or carbon steel. I suggest getting the carbon steel because it holds an edge a little bit better, and you also have the ability to strike sparks with it with a flint and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much it. I mean, they come with a pretty decent sheath, although I think they are upgrading it to something that's MOLLE compatible.
I believe so.
Yeah, I saw that at SHOT Show and did a video with them. If you guys haven't seen it, I think it's Industrial Revolutions. And so if you look in my videos, you'll see sort of the new sort of knives. I also have a Pathfinder knife. Well, the price point is quite a bit more. I think for these you can get them for about $16, $20, right?
Yeah, it's safe to say under $20 you get a capable bush knife. Now, it's not a full tang, so I wouldn't be out there just beating the heck out of it, baton and big stuff, because I don't think over the long haul that it would survive. But, I mean, we've watched Cody Lundeen on Dual Survival. Just, this is all he uses, basically, out in the bush.
Yep. And there's certain techniques that he uses, too, that make it so you can do this. You wouldn't baton with it, and you wouldn't be, chopping with it or that sort of thing. But, he has a way of, like, bending, like, saplings and then rocking the knife back and forth on it to get through the fibers. And that does pretty well for him.
Oh, yeah, and I've seen him where he will hold a knife up to a branch, and then, like you said, he's batoning through it, so he's definitely using his tool. Obviously you're not going to be cutting a lot of big-size pieces of wood with it, but, you pick and choose what you're going to use.
Exactly.
Now, something like a step up from that, what would you choose as like your next step up from, say, a
Uh,
Mora? Say somebody's outgrown it, their skill level, they're saying, you know what, this was my first knife, now I feel pretty confident, I'm ready to take that next step.
well, one of the first reviews that I did for knives was the SOG Northwest Ranger, and that's a pretty good knife. But I think one that is a little bit better in terms of like you get already a pretty decent sheath with it would be the SOG Seal Pup, and it's pretty lightweight. It's not a full tang, you know, but it's a lot more robust than the Mora. So with this, I would be pretty comfortable with batoning and that sort of thing. And I do believe they have a version without serrations. But if you're going to be cutting a lot of rope, serrations might be a good idea. They have a pretty good warranty. I think it's a lifetime warranty on these knives. So if you break it, then they'll replace it. They all only come in stainless steel. So if you're living in like Seattle, like me, it's a good thing to have stainless steel because of all the rain, all the moisture, and then potential salt spray from the ocean or the sea. What do you think is your next step? And I think we discussed this. I think that your choice, the next choice, would be a step up from even this knife.
Yeah, now, we're talking, what was your price point on something like that?
Something like this, I think it's about, and I hate to say it on Amazon, but I mean, obviously it's going to be the best price. I think these are around $50.
See, that's not bad, and that's a good step up for someone. Now, I get a lot of questions about serrations, and people ask me, John, should I get a bush knife with serrations? Me, personally, I'm not a big fan of serrations, especially for, quote, woods-type use. I feel that serrations, in my opinion, now remember, everybody has different opinions on knives, so in my opinion on serrations like that, you're basically making about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of that blade or more useless, especially when you're getting into those fine tasks and you're trying to do stuff. I'm not saying that you can't do it with serrations on the blade, but it makes it really tough.
Yeah.
To me, more serrations are more tactical stuff. I'm an EMT, I'm a law enforcement officer, I have to cut nylon straps to help people get out of cars and do things like that. I could see that cutting rope would be another one.
Yep. Any sort of like when you have to cut through a lot of fibers, serrations are really going to help you.
They're outstanding to do that.
If you are stuck with a knife like this and say you want to make a feather stick, like you said, you know, you're not going to be able to really use this part, and there's going to be a lot of leverage on your wrist going out here. So, but what you can do is you can take this, shove it into a log, and then actually move the wood across it. So you're actually manipulating the wood instead of the knife, and that's a way to get around that if you're stuck with, you know, this as your only option.
Now, we were talking about a step up from the SOG, and a lot of these knives Andy and I have done reviews on our channels, and a lot of folks were asking. For the next step, I chose the Brothers of Bushcraft Fieldcraft knife. I think I found this for about $109. And now they make them in a couple different colors. The scales are different colors. They really stepped up their game. I think Tops found a market for folks that love to do bushcraft stuff, and they started going with the 3/16 of an inch edge on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect thickness. So you still get the splitting capability and the toughness, but a little bit more sliceable.
Exactly. And when you're thinking about knives, and a lot of people in the questions, think about what you're going to use it for. What's your main task that you're going to use it for? Not all people that watch our channels are bushcrafters. Not all people are the tactical people. So you need to figure out, what is my main purpose that I'm going to use this blade for? If it's just a survival blade, I'm going to carry it with me, and this is going to be my main blade, then you might want to think of other options and considerations that you might want to use. That's why I never tell someone, no, that's the wrong blade, because it's what works for them, it works for their kit.
Yep.
Everybody's going to give their opinion on something like that, but you need to practice and figure out what works for you. That's why you start out with like a Mora and then work your way up.
Yep, and then you can use that for someone else that you might take out and show a thing or two. And
Exactly.
also, it's like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I carry like a, I'm just gonna throw this out there, like a Topps Power Eagle, like every day. I'm like, every day, really? You carry that? It's a short sword. I mean, I can carry that, and I'm out in the woods quite a bit. But it's a lot of weight. It can drown you or get caught on stuff. And then also, if you forget it on your belt and you're walking through downtown or something like that, all of a sudden, you got some cop's fingers up your asshole asking you what you're doing with that knife.
Yep, most definitely. Most definitely. There's a lot of folks checking in tonight. Let's get some quick shout outs in here. Marie was the first one to chime in. One Old Biker's here tonight. Loaded Fist is in from Bakersfield.
Nice.
Joshua's back in tonight. Jeremy Dunlap checking in from Texas. Thanks, Jeremy. Knife and Guns is here tonight. Expert Survival Tips is here tonight. Let's see. Eric Gutierrez is here. He's a big Mora fan. Grayman Zink is checking in from Southeast Texas. Mr. Nasty Nate 1985 in the house, baby, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So we got a pretty good lineup tonight. I'm going to try to get through to read some of your questions, and we'll probably save some of that for a little bit later.
Yeah, and I would like to say, like, I might not know all of you personally, but when you're naming off their screen names and their names, I'm like, I remember you, because you were here all those other times that we did chats. And Mr. Nasty Nate, I mean, Zip's not right here, but he just sent me a dog collar for Zip that he made out of paracord. And Nate used to have a blue heeler back in the day, and so I think he kind of got connected with Zippy, sent him a little present, so he's kind of sporting that right now. I don't know where he is, though.
I think I saw a photo on either Facebook or Instagram, one of the social media.
Facebook. I use Facebook a lot more than Instagram. Pretty cool.
No, that is cool. Now, a lot of people, in regards to knives, they also talk about stoves, and a majority of my questions when they're not knives are stoves. Last time we were on air, we talked about the Cali Barrett Bio Stove, so we won't go too much into that tonight. But
we didn't even get to the top part of the knives and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's keep. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track.
Well, I'm not going to beat it over, the head too much, because it's we talk about this knife a lot, but I think you and me both have this one, and this is the knife I designed, the Top Stone field knife, and of course I'm going to say it's the best, field knife out there because I made it, and that's just because I made it to suit my needs. And I know you have quite a bit of experience because you did a review on it. I think you're the second review on YouTube.
Yep. I've been carrying it for a while. I will say that you need to graduate up to this knife. I would not do it as your first knife. Would you agree, Andy?
I mean, if you have the extra funds, and some people are blessed to be able to, make a purchase like that, it might be something good. But at the same time, it's a lot of knife for someone to handle, and if you're not used to, using a knife safely, or even like your wrists or your hands aren't strong enough to use it all day, it might not be, the thing to buy.
Well, what I mean is, I want folks to get the basic skills down before they start using something bigger. Then they're going to wind up hurting themselves real bad.
Or damaging the blade. There's a lot of times where I see people, cutting or feather sticking on top of a rock, and I'm like, well, what happens if you slip? You're going to dig that right into that big block of granite that you're on. So, that's also.
Why I keep going back to this Mora knife, but that's why I'm a big fan of these, because one, if you buy it, then you start doing the bushcraft, the survival, the preparedness thing, and then you realize, gee whiz, this isn't what I really signed up to do and what I want to do. Then you're not out a ton of money, $20, right? So that's why I'm talking about where you graduate up. Plus, you're learning skills with this. You're acquiring skills. Some people might be the first time they've ever handled a blade. So you're handling something, you can get the fine motor skills to know where your hand is, because once you start graduating up to big blades, it's not a matter of if you're going to get cut. It's a matter of when you're going to get cut.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't cut myself for a year, and then I was out hunting in West Virginia this last fall, yeah. And I had my hand, I was holding the Tahoma field knife, and I was really excited. I still had a little bit of adrenaline in my body, and we got most of the guts out. I had the tome in one hand, had my bare hand in the other, and I was kind of getting things out and clearing the sarcophagus and the lungs and everything, and it just barely nicked me right in the hand, and it cut right through the nail and into it. I mean, it didn't hurt, but I know I cut myself, and then I don't know if that deer has been around and has a lot of diseases from other deer, like some weird deer STDs or anything like that, but I mean, immediately it started bleeding. I just let the blood come out to flush out any of the weird stuff that might be in that deer, and then kept on going. So, I mean, I've been using a knife my entire life, and I still get cut. It's just a matter of, am I stupid enough? Am I tired enough? Am I excited enough to, to slip my mind on something?
Well, I was using the Habilis bush tool yesterday, teaching someone some skills, and went to go put it in the sheath, and I grabbed the wrong part of the blade and happened to cut my finger pretty good. The blade let me know where it was, to put it that way. So it's going to happen. Even folks like us that have handled knives for a very long, long time, things like that are going to happen. That's why it also, in that regards, it's good to have a first aid kit, quick clot, maybe the sutures, a way to stop some bleeding.
Yeah.
Because when you're out there playing with knives and doing skills where you're trying to own them, you're going to get hurt. It's just part of what's going on. What you want to do is try to minimize that, like we talked about in one of our chats, where you have the blood circle, where people are far away, so when you're hacking and slashing and batoning, somebody doesn't get stuck with your blade.
Yep, exactly. And laying your bow is important, and especially important for, because I'm with my dog pretty much alone all the time, and sometimes he gets curious. There's always wood chips flying. He might come in close to take a sniff, and I got to make sure that I know where he is and tell him to back off, because I don't want to kill my dog.
Like Andy and I both have the Hellion. Here's another one. You're swinging this around. I mean, there's a sharp there, here. You got to be careful with people around you. Keep it in your mind that you don't want somebody walking into it, especially if you have teenagers, kids around. I mean, you really got to be mindful with what you're doing.
Exactly.
But, there's a lot of options out there, and I always say it's like eating pizza. Some people like pepperoni and mushrooms. Some people like Canadian bacon and pineapple, and you never get them to agree on it, but these are some options for you folks that we're trying to introduce you to. And I know that a lot of folks are chiming in that they're talking about Condor knives would be a decent upgrade to Amora. Yeah, they're affordable. They make some good bushcraft knives.
Absolutely.
A Cold Steel GI Tano with a couple of mods makes for a full tang blade for about $20.
Yeah, I don't touch Cold Steel knives. Just, that I don't like the CEO. But that has nothing to do with the company, as a product. It just has to do with their culture that I don't like.
Yeah, I've done a review on the Bushman. I mean, that's another under $20 knife that, I mean, I've beat on this knife quite a bit, and it's taking it.
Yeah, and I think Condor has the mini Mitagi or something like that. That's pretty similar to that as well.
Looks very similar.
Yeah.
They're all good knives. Yeah, I mean, everybody's stepping up their game because the competition's so fierce now that there's a lot of great knife makers out there, and they're doing great work.
That's the good thing about consumerism, is that consumerism drives innovation.
Exactly.
It's a good thing.
No, it is. Let's see. Somebody said, I love BG Ultimate SG Edge. I don't know what that means.
I think that's Bear Grylls Ultimate.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about Bear Grylls stuff. I know they improved, but I'm still afraid to touch them.
The only thing I'm worried about Bear Grylls, and I've done some research, I can't find what sort of metal they're using.
Right.
And that kind of bugs me. I like going out in the woods knowing if I have 420 stainless steel, or if it's 1095 or 5160, or I'd like to know that one just for corrosion aspects. How do I treat and keep my blade in the most optimal, performance that I can do?
Right.
I get a little worried when a company won't tell me what they're using for steel.
Yeah,
That's
I think their American stuff they tell you pretty straight off the bat. I
yeah.
think their Chinese stuff, probably because you can't pronounce it or something, but they have some weird designations.
You got to
Um,
remember though, like we're talking about the tone of tonight. Some of these companies are trying to hit a price point, so they're going to skimp somewhere. I would rather that a company skimp, say, on the sheath and give you a crappy sheath, and then you have a quality knife, rather than have oh great, this sheath looks like it's bomb-proof, and the knife, as soon as you take it out and try it, snap, it breaks off.
yeah, and that's something like the SOG Northwest Ranger, before we probably move on to a different topic, is a great knife. The leather sheath without any modification is crap, and even with modification, it's still kind of subpar. But that's why I have people like Regalia Innovations on my store. They understand that, yeah, it's a bad sheath, it's a great knife. Let's put these two things together, and then all of a sudden you got a really useful package.
Right.
But before I went back to the big knives, we were talking about stoves. Got derailed a little bit.
That's all right. I get passionate. I get excited about talking about this stuff, and then we just start flying, shotgun shooting different topics. So thanks
Yeah,
for keeping me on point on that.
we're already like 20 minutes in, and that was all just about knives, pretty much. Ooh, it's gonna be a long night.
Let's see. If you guys have any questions about knives, we're going to be talking about stoves too. Um, we have water filters. We have compasses. We're going to be covering quite a few things tonight. If you guys have any questions, we'll do our best to try to answer them.
Yeah, and I also have some protection cases as well, because some people like to carry electronics, and then I also have some of my clothing, and I'll kind of go over my philosophy on that.
Oh, cool.
That. And then we both have packs, but that shouldn't take too long.
Gosh, I should have brought it up. I have it out in the garage. I should have brought it up. But the good thing is, a couple of my packs, I can reference videos that I've done on them. So, and that they've held up. They stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to talk about next? Stoves?
Yeah, stoves. Let's go ahead and get to that.
Okay. Stoves are just like knives. Especially you have the ultralight backpackers, what we call the weight weenies that have the alcohol stoves, all the way up to the Yukon Bushmen that are bringing in these big old Franklin wood stoves, and everything in between. There's different philosophies, like we talked about before. It depends on what you're going to use it for. Am I a backpacker? Am I an ultralight backpacker? Am I a hunter, a fisherman, a camper, car camping? It's going to dictate what you get. Am I preparing just for something that's going to happen here on the home front? I live in SoCal. Earthquakes are a big possibility. Probably a low probability, but a very high possibility. Up where Andy lives, storms.
Yeah.
Ice storms, snowstorms, whatever, knock out power.
And I would say that we actually do have a lot of earthquakes, not a lot, but we have severe earthquakes too. And then Seattle's actually right on top of a fault line. So it's a possibility that one day everything just starts sinking, below the surface. So, I mean, all these natural disasters, because my house is run off of electricity. The stove is run off electricity. I think most people's run off electricity. And even in a situation where there's an earthquake, it's probably not going to be safe to be using natural gas or anything like that.
Nope.
Because the pipes are ruptured and this and that. And then if you don't have electricity going on to suck out, the fumes and the carbon monoxide, then you have a whole other issue altogether. So having these other options, from a preparedness standpoint, is also a huge thing. I use stoves for the most part. For the most part, from a backpacking standpoint and an outdoor standpoint. Although I think I am going to be getting a Cali Barrett stove here within too long, I hope.
Oh, they're awesome stoves. Um, got a question, a knife question. Gentleman wants to know from the man, so I'm going to ask you: is Tops offering the Tahoma with a false edge on top?
Yes, sir, they are. You're going to have to contact them directly, and that's sort of a special order thing. So you'll see, like on their knife sections, a lot of them will have the options of camouflage, serrations, Rocky Mountain tread, and for the Tahoma field knife, that's going to be an option as well. Right now, it's not on the website to do so, but you can call them up. You'll talk to a regular person. You're not going to get some machine. Ask them, can I get this? Great. Give them your card information, and whenever they start producing them when they get to you, because it's first come first serve unless you're in the military, that'll get out to you. So that's pretty much that.
Hey,
And
here's a knife question for you from Joshua, because you're a buck knife man as well.
hell yeah.
He says, what do you guys have to say about fixed blade buck knives?
The Ergo Hunter, I have this. I think it's the Select model, and that is a really nice knife. I used it during my sharpening demo to show it underneath the microscope, and I mean the blade is thin. It has the features on it, like it has little stippling on the blade, just where your thumb's gonna go. So when you're skinning and when you're holding it sideways to get underneath, the flesh or above the flesh, underneath the skin, it's just perfect. In terms of the buck hoodlum, I would say don't go for it until they fix whatever they're doing wrong.
Yep.
But there are folders I like. I mean, my first knife ever, is the Buck 110 Hunter.
Yep, I had one too.
Yeah, I mean, at 7 years old, it's my first knife, and this is a pretty big blade, so I'm kind of used to bucks and that sort of thing. Classic design, really good finish, lifetime warranty, which you can't really beat. But they're great. And then this is a sheath that I made because I didn't like the ones that they came with.
Oh, cool. What did you do? Did you wet form that leather?
Yes, sir, I did. Just put some saran wrap over it, wet formed it, and then, well, after I sewed it, I did that, and then dyed it. So.
Nice.
Yep.
Hey, Eric has a reply back on the false edge. I guess he contacted Tops, and they said that they didn't offer it, so we might have to check into that.
No, I absolutely know it is. You might want to talk to a different person, depending on who you're talking to, but I know that some people in Australia have already ordered some with the false edge, so I already know it's done. And if you can message me, and we can talk about the conversation, I'd love to kind of hear about it and see what's going on.
So we're talking about stoves now.
Yeah.
Now, I did a video a while back on a under $20 prep, and I basically did it on this stove here.
I enjoyed that review, by the way. I thought it was awesome.
I think I bought this in the grocery store for like $13.98.
That price point is ridiculous.
Yeah, and at the sporting goods, if you go to Big Five Sporting Goods, it was like $24. So when I saw this, I didn't only buy just one. I bought 3 of them because remember, 2 is 1 and 1 is 0. Right. So these are great just to take to the park. Takes this butane aerosol can. At the sporting goods store, these were like $3.50 a container, $1.48 at the grocery store. So every time I was there, guess what I do? I buy 6. Boom, goes in my kit. Now I have so many gas tanks now at the house that I'm afraid if I get a garage fire, the whole side of the house is going to explode. But
yeah, make sure you keep that away from where you sleep.
Yeah, no kidding. But we go to the park, we bring that. We had in 2010, we had a bad blackout here in SoCal where about 1 million or 1.5 million homes were without power. And my kid, because we train in case something happens, she breaks out the stove, had the Coleman lanterns out, ran some water, put it in the tub just in case water ran out. We were good to go. Folks were eating a hot meal, and it was just like nothing had ever happened because we had prepared like that and we had stuff readily available, and we knew how to use the gear. My wife knew how to use it. My kid knew how to use it, which is a big importance when you're trying to live a, quote, preparedness lifestyle.
Right, and also in camping and that sort of thing is also going to bring the perceived comfort level way up. I think for people that have never used one of these things, they're going to be kind of frustrated with them and kind of disappointed and kind of pissed off because, you know, all of a sudden you got these smells and these noises that you're not used to just to do something that in the regular world was just a flip of a switch or a turn of a handle. So, you know, camping and everything like that, like I've been told that my level of comfort would be considered someone else's hell, you know, from like a city standpoint. So I'm like, well, I mean, wiping my ass with rocks isn't a big deal for me, but for you it might be.
Well, like we were talking about, it depends on your skill level and where you're at, right? Hence why you start somebody out with the Moore knife, or you start somebody out with one of these stoves. For a backpacking stove, I use a jet boil.
Yeah.
And these are pretty good, but they have their limitations just like anything else. Isobutane. So at elevation and it's cold, it's going to be a factor. But I've taken these in the Sierras, used it at about 10,500 feet. Never had a problem. They very efficient on fuel. This thing will run. On that backpacking trip, I was there a week cooking 2 meals a day with this, and I'm talking about just heating up water, just getting to where the food was hot, and then shutting it off. But this little canister, I think it's a 42 gram or something like that, all week held up very good. And everything folds down inside this, very compact.
Very cool. And I have something similar to that. It is the Optimus Crux, and this is pretty much the entire setup. So you have a fuel canister like you do, a mixed sort of gas container, and then it has this sort of pouch that actually fits into the bottom of one of these things, and then it's kept in this little pouch. And for solo trips and, you know, really quick day trips, this is what I take because, I mean, it's literally just this big. And I think they're made in Sweden or some Scandinavian country.
Yeah, I think so.
But for, you know, smaller pots and stuff like that, like my solo pots or my my glacier cup, this is perfect. And, you know, yeah, at about 20 degrees, 15 degrees is when the performance of these things really start going down. But I have a stove that I use that's a liquid fuel stove that preheats all the fuel, so you don't run into those pressure problems.
Yep.
And the one that I have is the MSR. I think it's the Whisper Light International. So you can use unleaded gasoline, white gasoline, and then kerosene, and I think jet fuel as well. I don't know when jet fuel is actually ever going to be like easy to come by in a foreign country, but say like you're on a military base or something like that, I'm sure.
You never know.
Yeah. But I mean, it's pretty cool. And then they come in like those red, the fuel you put in those red bottles and you pressurize it. But I mean, these things can, if I'm going to be taking out 3 or more people, or I'm going to be in a very cold climate, this is pretty much the stove I'm going to take, because you can get a lot of heat a pot with a lot of surface area with this thing. It's really stable, tripod design, and you know, with all the little tiny windscreens and heat reflectors, you can be very efficient with one of these things. And I think a bottle for me will last about 4 or 5 days, and then you can have people carry multiple bottles on you. So, you know, if someone loses their pack or something like that, you still have a way to keep this going.
You know, and I'm glad you said that. On a lot of backpacking trips, we parse out the load. One person will carry the stove, another person carry the fuel bottle, you know, and so on and such. I know in Scouts, when if I was sharing a tent with somebody else, well, one scout carried the tent poles while the other scout carried the actual fiber of the tent. That way, one person just wasn't carrying the whole burden with them the whole trip.
Yeah. And
Now,
things.
when I started out years ago, and I did another review on this, this is the Coleman dual fuel stove, unleaded and the white gas. Very efficient. Say you're in an emergency and you can't get the Coleman fuel, grid's down, can't get to the store. Well, guess what? The fuel tank on your car now is going to heat up your food. So, you know, it might foul up the jets in this, but I would rather take that risk at that time and deal with cleaning it later than eating cold rice and beans and soup, and it's 20 below outside like it is up in the Northeast right now.
Yeah, and I think if you probably use that shell fuel, because it's supposed to burn clean in your engine, it'll burn clean inside of your stove as well. And about, you know, separating gear, also, like, if someone's carrying, you know, the bulk of the food, they're not carrying any fuel, because if fuel gets on the food, all of a sudden that food's poisonous and it's no good. So that's something also to keep in mind, especially talking about this sort of thing.
A lot of people are saying that they like the simple turned up alcohol stoves, you know, like the canned cat food stove.
Mm-hmm.
They call them the Mad Cat. You know, it's like we said, it all fits what your needs are. If you're an ultralight backpacker, if you're a minimalist, and that system works for you, and you know how to use that system, then that's great. Some folks get out there, they don't know how to use those systems, and with alcohol burning, a lot of times you can't see the flame, especially in daytime. And I've seen people get burnt real bad doing that. Just a safety concern and a consideration you might want to think about when you do that. On the plus side, if alcohol spills in your pack, you just air out and dry your stuff, and it doesn't stink it up like Coleman fuel, which is basically naphtha. And I've had that happen before, where the bottle, somehow the cap came loose and it leaked all through my backpack.
Yeah, and well, with fuels like this, because they're non-polar, they don't have very good tension, surface tension, like water does. So they want to spread. So any little tiny crack, it'll want to get out and then spread and then soak everything up. So that's something. And also, I like to add that, you know, alcohol stoves, they're great for short trips, you know, 2-3 days. But the BTU output for alcohol is a lot less than, say, white gas. So you're going to be out there carrying a lot. Yep. That being said, that because it is just alcohol, you don't need to have, you know, special flask containers like the MSR. But you know, you're going to be carrying more.
Oh yeah, I did a review on a bottle stove. A gentleman sent me one, and it worked really great. But like we were saying, you know, that item might not fit for everybody. So what we're doing tonight is trying to give you folks options, just trying to get folks maybe to think outside the box on a little bit of things. Yep. Or if you're on the fence about taking that next step and you're ready to step up your game to the next item, we're showing you some considerations to think about.
Yeah, and then price point, I didn't go over that. I think for these it's about $30-$40 for one of these stoves, which is
actually good. That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, I saw him at Cabela's. Oh, rest in peace, Dick Cabela, because he passed away a couple of days ago.
Really?
Yeah, he did. At 77, I think. And I'm like, whoa, that's totally crazy, because I didn't think legends could die. But
yeah, he's.
And I think for one of these, they go up, I think it's around 120-ish or 160, somewhere right there. They're kind of expensive, but if you're going to be going above the tree line, or you're going out for more than a week, or taking a lot of people, and this and that, this is one of the best stoves.
Plus, when you buy something like that, most likely you only have to buy it once.
Yeah, I mean, they have maintenance kits for them, little O-ring seals and little tiny you know, so.
Price point on this varies now because there's 2 or 3 different sizes. I think the base point starts at like $89, and then they have a jumbo size that I think goes for $110 or something like that. I usually buy most of my gear at REI, and for folks that don't know, that's a big outdoor specialty sporting goods store.
Out of Seattle.
If you're a member, you get basically a kickback for being a co-op member. So every purchase you get a little bit back depending on what you purchase and how you pay for it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, if there's an REI near you, it's definitely worth it. Once you pay the first membership fee, it's for life. You don't have to renew it every year. So
yeah, and it's not very much either, and then it also gives you access to the basement. I don't know if yours has a basement, but it's basically
yes.
all the returned items that people have. So you'll find things that, oh, it didn't fit right, oh, I don't like the color or whatever,
Yep.
or something that's broken that they don't know how to work, or that is just a quick sew. You can get things for more than 50% off. And I taught myself how to sew on a sewing machine and a serging machine, and I can get gear that I like. It might be a little bit big, might have a rip in it, either hem it, sew it back up, and then I have a brand new jacket. So my sewing machine, I got it for like $70. It's an old industrial path machine from Germany. That thing works awesome. I think it was like originally used to sew up parachutes or something like that. But getting something like that, learning how to use a sewing machine is also a huge plus, especially when you're looking for bargains.
Oh, it's a great skill to own. Joshua has a question. He wants to know about our thoughts on the classic Esbit stove for heating up meals.
Good for short term. I mean, I personally don't like solid fuel, like little tabs, because it's like a lollipop. You get candy plus trash, and I don't like to carry like that sort of thing. Versus something like the MSR, I can literally take it to the gas station, fill up a bottle, and then be good to go for a few days. But I mean, they're good. For my girlfriend's survival kit, I have a Nesbit stove in her thing, and she knows how to use it. And they're inexpensive, lightweight, compact. But for long-term survival or for use backpacking, I wouldn't use it. And also, for something like that, it's hard to gauge how much you need for a certain meal versus something like a stove that we have. Turn it on for just as much as you need it, either to warm up food, boil food, and then keep on going. So that's that.
See, we have Michael Perkins checking in. He has a question. He goes, any recommendations for a low-budget stove?
Low-budget stove? Well, define low budget. I mean, I think this is a really good entry-level stove because this is my 3-season stove, and so anytime except dead of winter, this is what I use.
If you have a cook kit, an MSR Whisper Light, they're about $35, $38, somewhere in that range, and all you do is just buy the canister, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, that's in the same sort of tier as this one. They work great, and they fold up small. And the MSR stuff is all made in America. They're actually made in Seattle, so
I keep a Whisper Light in my little bug-out backpack that I keep in my car trunk, just in case. You never know.
Yeah.
And I know I paid under $40 for that.
Yeah, and then any of the Coleman stuff I pretty much trust because I've been using them as a kid. So those old school stoves work great, I think.
Yeah, I would recommend the old school Coleman stuff. Some of the new stuff now, you got to beware on that, especially now because.
Did they change their manufacturing? I'm not too up to date on that.
Well, I think they're skimping a little bit, trying to hit a price point because now you're starting to see them primarily in Walmart, Target, Kmart. You don't see Coleman anymore. Coleman used to be the pinnacle of outdoor gear. You don't see it that much in REI or Big Five or Sports Authority. It's starting to be more of the B-list type stuff now because I don't know. Just some of the quality things I've seen. But these old stoves, you could go to a garage sale, $5.
Yeah, or a surplus store or even eBay. I mean, because some people don't appreciate the simplicity of the older stoves.
Yep.
And I will say that buy your stuff from a company that you like and would like to see keep on going, and not buy it from a Walmart, a Target, all those places, because every single dollar that you spend is basically a voting ballot in how you want to see the future go.
Exactly.
So if you want to go to a mom and pop store, get it from a small surplus store or something like that, or a small boutique or whatever the hell. And just kind of make sure that we don't turn all into this big, Fortune 500 Fortune 500 store here, Walmart there, because I don't want to be drinking Starbucks and eating McDonald's for the rest of my life.
Yep.
I want to have like real places to
Well,
get.
that's why we had Johnny Barrett on the last show. Made in America, all American source parts, good quality item. We're trying to help promote folks like that to, get those items that you probably would never hear of or see anywhere else other than this format, because these small startups don't have the budget to take full-page ads out in Backpacker Magazine or Field and Stream or Outdoor Life, whatever. So this is a great media or medium to get that information out to folks.
Absolutely.
Word of mouth is the best way to get that out.
Yeah, and we won't beat it over the head too much, but the Cali Barrett stove, I don't have one. I've seen you use it. I understand the science and the workings behind one. That's one of the things I'm going to get next for, if I'm car camping or using the TV, and don't want to be using these fossil fuel type things. So that's also another option, and you have a review which people can check out.
Now, Michael Perkins is talking about the BioStove, and we touched on this on our last chat, talking about the issues that it has when it gets wet. That's the wood-burning stove that has the USB like little generator on there where you can charge up your mobile devices and such. And one of the topics of discussion was if the darn thing gets wet, it's pretty much going to render it useless.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure, because it has a fan to drive oxygen into the combustion chamber. I'm not sure if there's any maintenance that's required on that, because that stove actually has a moving part, which is the fan. And me and moving parts, unless it's on a gun, I'm kind of wary about. Other stoves don't have it. It's all based on fluid dynamics and aerodynamics and how gases get pushed through. So that, to me, is a little bit iffy. The Cali Barrett stove has 0 moving parts. It's all based on air pressure and insulation and chamber temperature. So, yeah, I mean, that's something that I'm going to be looking at, the BioLite, just to play around with. But I'm not going to take that on a 100-mile hike in the North Cascades, because the last thing I want to do is have to, grab these little tiny sticks that's on the top of a mountain to try and heat my food up.
Now, on my Coleman video, for folks that are wondering about that, I posted a link on that video, and right now I'm having one of those not enough sleep moments where I can't remember the link. But there's a gentleman on the internet it's called oldcolemanparts.com or something like that, where just about every make and model of these dating back to the 1940s, 50s, on up to today, he has part lists, and most of the items he had parts for. So if you find something like this and say the generator doesn't work or the pump doesn't work on the tank, that gentleman may have a part for it, so you can bring these old dinosaurs back to life, and they'll give you many years of good service.
Yeah, because most of those stoves haven't ever been refurbished before. But for the most part, like, the only thing that's really going to go out on them are like O-rings. Go to a plumbing store, get some O-rings yourself, find the one that fits, put some oil on it, pump it back up, and then it'll be good to go.
Yep. So
that pump is actually the thing that fails the most, because everything else is pretty much, it's literally a copper tube. It gets heated up.
A lot of it is that, depending on the fuel, if you're burning unleaded fuel, the generator will get clogged up with carbon, and then you'll have to take it apart and clean it out.
Yeah, that's a pipe cleaner. I mean, that, what, 25 cents for a little package? I mean, nothing. So, I mean, these things are meant to be field serviceable and last forever, pretty much.
Eric Gutierrez says, GearTrade.com is a great place to find used surplus outdoor gear. I've never been to that website. I'll check it out, though, and thanks for the info on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Michael also said that he snagged his wife's sewing machine and learned how to use it on YouTube.
Nice. I actually learned on YouTube as well. I should have learned at home ec, but being, the dumb teenager, I didn't see the value of it, and so I had to learn later on. I think I took Japanese instead as my elective. And I haven't used a lick of Japanese, like, at all. I think I was reading um, some characters earlier, and I impressed the shit out of Glenn, my cameraman for SHOT Show, but that's the only time I ever actually used it.
Hey, we got a steel question on knives from Nasty Nate.
Sure.
He wants to know if we trust the 8CR13 MOV or the 9CR13 MOV compared to 1095 or 1075.
Those are actually not even in the same ballpark because those are stainless steels. They're pretty much more or less the Chinese equivalent of like 420.
Yeah.
So it's not. I wouldn't trust it over.
Well, I did a test on this one, and this is Charade's. Let me see real quick. The SCHF17, and this is the 8CR13 MOV. In that video, you go and watch it. I beat the living daylights out of this knife, and it held up. It's still sharp. I mean, you saw where I baton that twisted piece of pine limb, and it just explodes because there's just so much torsion pressure on there. Knife held up great. There's no twist. It's not bent. So I think they're coming a long way. It depends on how much nickel and stuff that they're putting in the blade steel, but they're holding up. I can only speak to the test that I've done on this, and I mean I tried to break this knife, and I got tired out in the rain. I couldn't do it. So if that answers your question, Nate.
Yep, and a lot of it has to do with the thickness and how they temper it. So it is going to vary by manufacturer, but I mean, to me, if I'm going to look for an outdoor knife, I'm just going to go straight to 1095. I'm not even going to look really anywhere else, unless it's like a super steel, like S35 VN or something like that, like Spartan blades. I would go for a Spartan, I mean, at the drop of a hat if I could afford one. But for the most part, the cost and the performance balance for 1095 is great.
Now, that's what we're talking about, is when you buy something, and are you getting the bang for the buck? Is the squeeze worth the juice? Like when we were talking about earlier, fire steels, we were talking offline, and the Harbor Freight $3 Jabadoo over the Doan one. And I mean, in the video, hands down. And there's tons of videos out there where folks are doing these Harbor Freight, and I don't know if this camera can see really well, but it's junk. Save your money, for $8.
More for the real thing anyway, so
yeah.
It's not like you're. I mean, what? It's like 1-2 things on the dollar menu at McDonald's. I mean, come on.
Yep. That right there is going to last, unless you use it every day, is going to last you a very long, long time. And if you use it every day, you're still going to get your $8 use out of it.
Yeah. So I mean, for Christ's sake, I mean, a Zippo lighter, this one I think was like $20. I mean, and that will last. I mean, it's not going to last as long as Zippo because you're going to always be replacing the flints, but in the given refill time, that's going to last way longer than one of these things on a refill.
Yep. So those are things to consider when you're going to make that purchase, because the economy is not getting any better. The value of the dollar is getting worse, and you want to make your money stretch. I mean, you think right off the bat, yeah, I'm only spending $3, but are you going to risk your life for $3?
And I don't think some people understand quite how important that fire can be sometimes, and how shitty products actually are. And I've tried, and I test some of these products out before I bring it onto the channel, because I don't want to start bringing a whole production thing together on a crappy product. I'm trying it out in the backyard. I can't get it to start, and I'm just like, all right, well, this ain't good. Like some of the things that I have on my online store, I test out or want to test out. And there was one thing. I think the brand is Bushcraft, and it's the Mayday signal mirror. And I was like, cool, this might be something that I can like get a bunch and then put together like little tiny survival kits on the store. And I received one, and I'm like, holy shit, this is the shittiest mirror I have ever seen. Like, if you take basically a mirror that a Barbie comes with, you know, that silver sticker, goddamn thing, and then you put that on a piece of polycarbonate, and then cut a little window, and then put a little grid on it, and that's essentially what it is. And I'm like, holy crap! Like, the image is all warped, and it's like I'm looking through the sight piece, and it's not clear. Like, I can hardly see the glowing orb, and I'm like, holy shit! So I was like, nope. I just threw it away, and was like, all right, I'm just gonna cut my losses there. I'm never going to try and buy something from that company, because if they can sleep at night trying to sell something like that, then I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, that for me personally, that's what one of my main motivations is for doing gear tests. So folks don't go out and spend their hard-earned money on crap. A lot of stuff, if it's crap, I don't like testing it to begin with. Because, one, my time is valuable, and I just don't want to waste that time doing it. But if something's marginal that may be able to fit into someone's kit that I can use for multiple applications, then I'll test it and do things on it. You know, because folks ask me all the time, I do that 1 to 5 rating, and folks go, well, a lot of times you give a 4 or a 5. Well, if it's a 1, normally I won't even waste your time. Your time's valuable. I won't even bring it up. But that's the one good thing about YouTube and the video reviews on a lot of this stuff is now these companies really can't BS folks like they used to in the past.
Yeah.
You know, like that just seen on TV 1980s Rambo survival knife that will do everything, you know, cures fits, warts, and freckles, and cough, cold, runny nose.
Yeah, no more snake oil. You know, those days are pretty much over.
So now I think that the reviews are making folks step up their game, because the last thing they want is somebody using their gear on a video and it failing.
Yeah, and there's one YouTuber out there that is very popular who does gear reviews, and they're very well done, but the products that he's doing on them, I've tried them out before, and they're not very good. And so I'm thinking that he's getting paid to say the shit, and I'm thinking that they might be sending him several in case they break, you know, just switch to a different one. And
Could be.
And so, like, and I'm going to go back to the Tomo Field knife, any Tops knife is serial numbered. So you'll know if something breaks and they have to replace it, it'll be a different serial number, because they don't make different serial numbers. And so I carry number 3. I think you're carrying number
42.
42.
Yep.
So if you see a different number than number 3 on my knife, that means that something happened or someone stole it. More likely than not, I probably lost it and someone stole it. But I mean, I'm going to be using this pretty much until I die.
But even on, like, the Brothers of Bushcraft has a serial number on there.
Yep. Yeah, and if you like it, put your name on it. If you really stand behind it and love the product, put a serial number on it. So that's kind of my philosophy for that.
And if anybody's watched my video on that review of the Tahoma, I pound that bad boy into a block of wood, and I'm just tweaking it back and forth. And that's a testament to their temper, how they heat treat their steel. And that's the same whether it's the Hawks Hellion, the Brother of Bushcraft, whatever. We're not doing a Tops commercial, but they do a great freaking job at the heat treat of their knives. I've never chipped a blade, not saying that I couldn't, but I've never done it. Even the Hawks Hellion serial number, all their knives have serial numbers on them.
Yep. And then that's the main thing, I think, when we talk about the value to a Tops knife that people just don't understand, because they look at the specs, and the specs don't say differentially heat treated. They don't say made in America by hand by someone that's in the military. It just says 1095. You know, it gives you some numbers for the width and the length and all this stuff. But there's a lot more things that happen to a Tops knife than, you know, what we see on paper. And that's something that should be addressed, I think.
Yep, even a Tops American Trailmaker. Yeah, I'm a Tops fan. That even has the serial number on it. So, you know, it's a testament like that that they're going to back up their stuff with its personalized item for you.
But
You know, in that regard, there you get what you pay for, and when you're ready to make that step past that Mora, that's definitely a consideration. You know, cut back on the caramel frappuccinos for a month, and there you go. You got a high-end knife that's going to last you a lifetime that you could pass down to family, and it'll outlast me. These knives will definitely outlast me.
yeah.
And never wear them out.
Speaking of blades, though, I just wanted to quickly go over axes real quick. You know, there's basically two types of axes as far as I'm concerned. There's truck axes, you know, things that you just keep in the truck or that you want to use for car camping and that sort of thing. And I think a great example of that is the SOG base camp axe. You know, it's an all-metal shaft. It's pretty darn heavy. It actually comes sharp. A lot of these, you know, factory-made axes don't have an edge on it. You have to put it on yourself, depending on, you know, what you're using it on. But it's pretty heavy. It has a nice hammer back on it, and a meat pull, I think is what it's called. And I think it's perfect for, you know, if you're not hiking with it, because these are pretty heavy. And they're kind of foolproof, and because it doesn't have like a wooden handle or anything like that, if you miss it, you're not going to be breaking stuff. So this is something that, you know, you can have, you know, your best friend that's drunk or whatever, you know, go chop some wood or something, and not have to worry about it too much. Although I would be worried about him chopping off his own legs.
East Wing makes one as well that you can pick up at any Home Depot. That makes it all metal handle.
Yeah, and all metal handles for something that you're going to be using car camping, that sort of thing, where people are going to be, you know, sharing tools is going to be good. Because I don't think anything will piss me off more than me, you know, lending a Wetterling's axe to someone, and all of a sudden there's a huge crack right there because they just wanted to manhandle it and they missed, and then, you know, hit a log or something.
Yep.
So that would definitely ruin a friendship. You know, they're replaceable, but at the same time, it's, you know, finding a perfect piece of wood for a handle is pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's like a piece of art.
Yeah, and, you know, I think if you're going to go for a bushcraft axe, if you're going to be doing any, like, felling of trees, starting with the Wetterlings, they have probably about 50 different models depending on what you're doing and what region you're in. They're pretty good. The craftsmanship isn't perfect like they would be on a Grand Force Brooks. This one has a little bit of a tilt in the bit, but they're sharp. They are hardened pretty much just like a knife, so you have that really good edge retention, and they slice really well. If you drop me in the woods with one of these, I could start a fire. You know, I can feather stick with it, I can chop with it, build a shelter, and then, you know, pretty much do anything I needed. So, yeah.
Hey, we got Sonoran Desert Prepper here tonight from Tucson. Thanks for joining us. He has a question about what our thoughts are, our opinion on Damascus blades.
I have one Damascus blade that I'm going to be using to make a knife, and lash to antler. And I would say that only get Damascus from a reputable maker, because, you know, it's a process of folding and welding layers together, and if you don't do that correctly, then you have little pieces of slag, or you have little open voids inside of the steel. So yeah, make sure it's from a good person, a reputable person. But at the same time, it's they're pretty expensive Damascus blades if they're done right from a good maker. So
They're beautiful blades.
Oh yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily use it for a hard use blade, just because to me it's like using a custom blade. But you know, like the Viking swords, the Ulfbert, those swords were crucible steel, and that was acquired from, I think, around Pakistan, because they had forges, not forges, but smelters that could bring that metal up to that temperature. And in that same region, they also did the Damascus steel, so they kind of have it in the same kind of region. So those were the only two ways to get really pure, high-quality steel, was to make a Damascus or to make a crucible steel. So in terms of durability and that sort of thing, I would say that they're very durable. Would I use it for an outdoor blade? No. Would I use it for a hunting blade? Yes, probably, if I had the extra money and I wanted to be fancy. But there's 1095 blades out there that are just as good. They're made in a really good smelter and will perform just as well without the $400 price tag.
Yeah, if I was a knife collector, wearing a show knife or something, but they're just too darn pretty for me to use for everyday use. I mean, they're just an awesome looking blade.
Yeah, and it's almost a ceremony blade, where you just want to use it for like cutting that Thanksgiving turkey or something.
Hey, we got guys chiming in saying, Michael Perkins saying, he stole his wife's cosmetic mirror, and it's a folding double mirror in a hard plastic case. He's using that as a signal mirror.
Sweet.
Loaded Fist says, in a pinch, you could use a CD blank as a makeshift signal mirrors. So, yeah, you can do that. I mean, there's all sorts of... Yeah,
the problem with those is that, unlike a specific signal mirror, you have to use two hands in order to aim it. You have to do like that V, and then you have to flash between the V in order to figure out exactly where your beam's going. And that might not be possible if you have an injured wing or something, but it's possible in a pinch.
You got Michael Perkins says that he's jealous that he has an old hickory butcher knife and a Gerber profile. Michael, I'm going to tell you right now, don't be jealous. That old hickory butcher knife was made out of 1095 carbon steel probably. It'll probably outlive me. Still probably outlive another one of me. I mean, they're just awesome. I think Canterbury carried one for a long time as well. So it all depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to be traditional, old school bushcrafter, then that's what you use. Or there's got hunters, trappers. I mean, those would be great knives for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and Canterbury's changed his model of knife a lot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he has a tops knife. He has does he have one by Bark River?
I'm not sure. I know that he had an old hickory that he had bought at a garage sale and then reprofiled.
Yeah, so I mean, even him, he's always changing. So, I mean, it might be something where it's like, well, more money's coming from here and he's just moving over, but, I mean, he's always changing how he uses things and that sort of thing. So, I don't think I'm actually ever going to change from the Tahoma field knife just because it does everything well. Not the best, but well. So, that's that.
One thing I like about those old butcher knives like that is the history behind them. I always think, who used this knife before me? What did they use it for? Where's this knife been? What has it done? In the travels of this blade. It's just that sort of stuff is the cool factor that I like when I see stuff like that at garage sales, or if somebody happens to give me a blade, or it just sparks a good memory. And I think if what makes you feel good and you're outdoors doing things like that, that's a good thing. It doesn't matter what blade you have.
Yeah, and there's one guy that I know who makes these sort of steak knives and outdoor bush knives out of old, I think, bandsaw blades from a sawmill. And the cool thing about that is like, well, this saw blade could have made a bunch of people's houses. So you're looking at recycled materials too sometimes. And that could be, have a whole new story behind itself.
Yeah, like this. We keep going back to from stoves to knives, from like this old Schrade Sharpfinger that I had since I was a teenager. I mean, just the memories of carrying this as a young kid through scouts, hunting, fishing, all the deer, all the trout that we've gutted and skinned and had a trap line. I mean, it's just stuff like that, dude. Don't ever be jealous. Those knives that you have, I mean, they have history, and props out to that. If you're out there using your stuff, I mean, that's what it's all about. The main thing of this conversation tonight is that we're just out using our stuff and owning the skills and
Yep.
doing it.
And it's I think to me it's like the same about clothes. You kind of use what you got. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of money, $300 pairs on pants, $500 jacket, this sort of thing. It's like for me, if I'm worried about looks, I'm just gonna go for a nice rain jacket or wind blocker, and then
Yep.
nice like rain pants or wind blocker pants. Because the insulation layer, your long john layer, no one's gonna see that stuff. It could be old school wool that has like all these moth holes in it. It could be like some like piss shit stained long johns. No one's gonna know. As long as it works and it fits right and is comfortable to wear all day, then it's good.
Yep.
You put something on top of it, and all of a sudden you look like $1,000,000, and no one knows the difference. So for me, that's what I do, and I buy a lot of stuff from Goodwill because I used to be sponsored by Helly Hansen back when I did a lot of mountain biking. So I had the really good opportunity and was blessed to have gear to me that I couldn't otherwise afford. So now that some of those things are getting too small because I'm bulking up a little bit, they're getting holes from the fire. I'm replacing it with things that I can't afford. And it might be a 10-year-old fleece or something like that, but it still works. The same weather that people went out 10 years ago is going to be the same weather now. Might be a little bit hotter, might be a little bit colder because of climate change or whatever, but it's not a big deal.
There was a question about what our thoughts were about tomahawks.
They're cool if you want to go all Patriot on someone, like all Mel Gibson, and just smash someone's head. They're not, in my experience, they're not very good for chopping. It's too small of a bit, and they're too lightweight to do a lot of good damage. But if you're fighting, then they're great. Honestly, I'd choose a Tahoma field knife over it.
I own two of them. I own the Cold Steel Trench Hawk, and I own the Cold Steel Trail Hawk. And you're right. I would rather use either the Tahoma or the Hawks Hellion over them. I think the weight versus what you're able to do with it, a big knife is going to outperform that Hawk, I think, 9 times out of 10. I know that folks will have opposing opinions on that. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. But from owning them, using them, they're more of a pain just to maintain rather than just have a knife and be done with it.
Yeah. And also, like, I know Cold Steel makes a good hawk, although I'm not going to use one. But like SOG, they have the tomahawks, and their bits are flat. If you want something that's really good for chopping, you actually want it to be curved, because when it hits an object, you're going to have a little bit of contact area, so more energy is going to go into it. Versus as flat, then you have all this energy that's kind of dispersed. So when you're looking for something that's good for chopping, you want to have a nice rounded bit. And you'll see that on like the Wetterlings. The Wetterlings has a nice curve on it, and the base camp axe has a nice curve on it too. So these are actually made for doing work on hard materials.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give me a good axe. It's a tool that you need. That's where that step is over the tomahawk. A tomahawk would be a pain to try to fell a tree with a tomahawk. I mean, it'd be easier to do with the Tahoma than with that trail hawk. But that's where an axe or a saw comes into play, to have out there in your kit. But that's where you make those steps. You start out with the gear, and then you figure out what you like doing, whether it's the bushcraft thing, survival thing, or you're a hunter or whatever, backpacker, and you base your kit on what you like to do a majority of the time. No sense buying a $200 axe and you're never going to use it, in my opinion.
And there are plenty of $200 axes out there, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I tell everyone, put your money where your time is. If you spend a long time on the road, you might want a Mercedes. I prefer a truck because I go out in the mountains a lot and I haul a lot of crap, doing projects at home and going to Home Depot and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what I choose. And if you know, are a big axe guy, a lot of guys like to just go with an axe. Get a really nice axe, get a little tiny knife. If you don't like carrying a lot of equipment, go for something like the home field knife where you only have to carry one tool.
Yep.
So it's a bunch of different options. And there's also like day hikers. If you stay on the usual trail, then you don't need to get the GPS. You don't need to get the compasses and the maps to maintain that sort of navigational skill. For me, I don't use GPSs because I'm usually away from the house too long that the batteries don't last long enough. So I usually go, for a nice, good old-fashioned compass. This is a compass that I had for a long time. I think this was probably about $10 when I was a kid and got it. And it's just a regular Lensatic brass compass, liquid-filled. I forget which brand this is, but it's lasted a pretty long time. And then I think Wingman, I think we both have the Silver Ranger.
You know what's crazy? We're almost like freaking
twinsies.
Twins. Because I grew up using a Silver Ranger, and then like 4 or 5 years ago, something happened where all the liquid leaked out of it because it was like 35 years old. So I just went out and bought another one. But I love it because you can adjust the declination setting on there. It has a inclinometer on there. You can tell the angle of a hillside. You can shoot a line with this thing.
Yep. And then also, awesome. You have a mirror on it as well that's protected.
Yeah, signal mirror.
So you got a signal mirror. You got a contact that needs dislodged, or it's been dislodged, and you put back in. Putting on camouflage makeup, whatever. Yep. You got this. And it's pretty cool. I mean, if you're going to really get into the shit, I would go for a Kamanga compass, just because you don't have to deal with the liquid drying out like yours did.
Yeah.
But
what price point are you talking about?
Again, these I think are about $40 on Amazon or so, right? Somewhere around there.
I think I paid like $50-something at REI for this.
Yeah. So, I think these are a really good thing to get because you get a protractor plus a compass plus a mirror for sighting. And then you go for a Kamanga, and if you go for the non-tritium, I think they're around $60, best price online, and then for the tritium, they go upwards of $100.
So I was at REI yesterday because I was thinking, okay, I'll go pick up a cheap compass, to compare for the show. But they had these Brunton compasses, and I don't like how the needle is where you have that circle and then the needle where it points north, and then they had the Sanudo ones. So I took them both down and I lay them side by side, and just about every Brunton compass that I saw was off by about 5 degrees from the Sanudo ones. So
you weren't putting them like too close together where they were interfering with each other, were you?
No, I had them like almost 2 feet, 18 inches apart, holding them both out like this, comparing them. But I'm not saying that they're junk, because they make some good stuff, but it was interesting to see how it was deviating.
Yep, and of course you should probably always carry two. I carry this one, and then you've seen in my videos I always have one on my wrist. And so if I'm not sure that, because sometimes if you hit these things really hard, they might switch polarities or something like that. You can put two of them, 2 feet apart, like you just said. Make sure they're both pointing in the same direction, and then giddy up and go. So
Sanudo makes a nice one that goes on your wrist with a nice wristband, almost the size of a watch. You can do. Folks in the GPS market, I have an older version. It's the GPS 60 CSX map. I'm big into geocaching, so I primarily use this geocaching. But when I'm out hunting and I find a spot, hey, I'll mark it, I'll flag it, and then I can be able to come home and then look on Google Earth or whatever to find out where I'm at, get that lay of the land. So they have their place, but you shouldn't totally rely your life on this, because it's all line of sight with satellites. You're in heavy tree cover, you're in canyons, or heaven forbid the batteries die, then what?
Yeah,
You know,
or gets submerged in water. And likewise with the compass too, unfortunately, if heavy fog rolls in, all of a sudden you can't triangulate, and then you're kind of sitting on your fingers then, because you don't know what to do. So it's either wait out the storm or track your steps all the way back home.
yeah, well, that's where GPS would come in handy there in that regard,
Yeah.
because you could almost do a crumb trail, Hansel and Gretel style to get back, but still, I don't like risking my whole life on electronic device because with my luck, it'll fail. It just will. Something will happen that will cause us to fail.
Hmm.
It's Jeremy Dunlap says he carries a Super Tool 300 EDC and he uses it every day. Paid $100 for it, and he says he loves it. He uses it every day. I have the Super Tool 300. It's an awesome tool. It'll last you a lifetime. It's a good quality tool. That's what we're talking about here. If you buy stuff like that, you only have to buy it once, and then it's going to last you forever. It's got replaceable wire cutters on there, so if you wear the wire cutters out, and I think either a lifetime guarantee or a 25-year guarantee. If you break one of the tools, they're going to replace it. I mean, that's...
Yeah, and even if they didn't, it's going to cost $5 to replace one of them things?
Something like that, yeah. I mean,
Not going to break the bank.
we were talking about that with Tilly hats.
Yeah.
They're made in Canada. The gentleman, Mr. Tilly, gives you a unlimited guarantee on there that if you wear this hat out. Now, granted, I think I paid like $80 for this hat, and people go, John, $80, you're crazier than a Christmas fruitcake. Yeah, you're right. But their guarantee is if you wear this out and the warranty's registered, you mail it in, they'll send you a brand new hat, and then they'll send this one back to you. Or if you lose it, they have a Scout's Honor guarantee where they'll take your word that you legitimately lost it, and they'll send you a brand new hat.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know any other company that'll do that.
Yeah, and I have a Tilly hat. Fortunately for me, I was just like at a Goodwill outlet, and it was just in a bin. And I was like, that's a Tilly hat, that's a Tilly hat, that's a Tilly hat. And then I was like, holy shit. And I think I snagged one for about 75 cents. So for me, it was really lucky, but it's awesome because, yeah, I mean, and they're kind of classically styled, so it's not like it's going to go out of, it's not going to go out of style like, a trucker hat or something like that. So you'll wear it, and then, 10 years down the road when you wear a hole through it, or, your dog bites through it or something like that, then you can go ahead and get something fresh.
Oh, those hats have a whole culture that surrounds them. And there's a style that just about fits anyone.
Yeah.
If you go on their website.
You have a multicam one, don't you?
I have a multicam one as well. I love that hat. I have like 3 or 4 Tillys. I just love them all. But the problem I have now is I just don't have enough time to wear them.
Mm-hmm.
Wear them all. I wish I could wear them every day, but you can only do so much. But they're going to last a lifetime. They're awesome. I've been backpacking with them. Getting them wet. I mean, they're just awesome hats. If you're a hat lover out there, there's something for everybody.
Yeah, and they come in like, I think organic hemp too, oiled canvas.
They found a way to treat cotton where it won't shrink, which is cool. And that's what started him in the business. He wanted to find a good quality hat that he was working on sailboats, and the hats would get wet, and then they'd eventually shrink and not fit. He wanted to find something that would be functional, and when the cotton gets wet, it doesn't shrink, and he developed a fabric that would do that.
And also, they actually float, too, which is something
Correct.
That costs like 3 hats, like canoeing. A wind blows, and all of a sudden my hat goes, and before I can grab it, they sink to the bottom, and then I never see them again. So they don't float like buoyant, like on top of the water, but they kind of hover just below the surface, well enough time for you to grab one out. And then also like the hardware and everything like that. I didn't know he came from sailing, but I was like, these are really This is like hardware that you would see on a sailboat. Because I used to work on a lot of wooden boats, and I'm like, man, this is really nice stuff.
Oh yeah, he imports all these brass air holes and everything from England. You can special order the bug netting, where if you order the hat through them, say you're living in a place where the no-see-ums and the bugs are real bad, they can install those little bug screens in for you. And there's a lot of things that they can do. Hey, we have a question from Knife and Guns. He says, Leathermans are worth it just for the warranty. He goes, he sent his charge back, and they replaced the blade, file saw, and a bit driver, and sent it back to him with new bits, no charge.
No shit. That's
so
nice.
There you go right there.
Yeah.
Testimony from Knife and Guns that their warranty does work.
Yep, and they're like 95% made in the U.S. I think their screws they come from Mexico or something like that, so they can't say it's made in the U.S., but they can say Oregon proud or whatever. So, I mean, they definitely have. I mean, and they're the first to really do the multi-tool thing too.
Yeah, them and Gerber. You know, then again, I don't know where all this stuff's sourced for Gerber. I can only speak to what I use. And I've been using Leathermans, and they've worked fine for me for a long, long time. Joshua says he has a Leatherman core that he's owned for 10 years. Says he chipped the flathead screwdriver bit while trying to take it off a scope and was thinking about returning it. Dude, you should give them a call. See if they'll send you the flathead screwdriver for free.
Yeah, I mean, you can even take the bit, put it on like a newspaper with the date on it, and just take a picture of it, send it to them. They'll probably just send it right back without you having to have a tool for a while. They're pretty cool. I mean, I talked to them at SHOT Show. They have a great company. They got a lot of cool, innovative stuff, and it's just it says a lot being first. And they're a pretty powerful company too. They bought like Pocket Tool, which was a really popular company as well. And so they got a lot of cool stuff in the basket.
They bought that flashlight, right?
I think they're merged with Lead Lenser.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they've always been together at the SHOT Show.
Which Andy did a kick-ass SHOT Show booth review where that guy was just passionate as oh get out about flashlights.
Yeah, like talk about German engineering in a flashlight. I mean, their cars are pretty cool, but then their flashlights, I think, might be even a little bit cooler. And something that actually everyone can afford. Like that 300 lumen flashlight that changes color is still at 300 lumens with one LED. So you don't have a filter that cuts down on your light, so it's still bright as all hell. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And $80 for that flashlight?
He was so passionate about it, Andy. I was getting excited for him, going like, gee whiz, I don't know why I don't own one yet. You know, the way he was describing it. It was just crazy. I almost felt guilty at the end of the video. I'm like, gee whiz, man, I got to freaking buy one of these now.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, it's not necessarily how bright the flashlight is, but how you use the beam.
Correct.
So they have beams that are focusable, so you can go like laser spot, or you can go like all-out flood. And it's a nice, clean beam. There's no rings or artifacting, and you can either light up an entire basketball court, or you can just get someone's face and then give them a suntan. So, they have a lot of cool shit. That's for damn sure. And I want to connect with them again because I want to try out some of their stuff.
Grayman Zink is chiming in. He's a Gerber fan. He says his old Gerber is made in the U.S. Says carries it every day constantly. He's owned it for 8 years.
Good job. Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I've had some Gerber folders, and being a kid, you're not really cautious about like how you use a tool. And I've broken about 3 Gerbers. Albeit I was kind of abusing them, but so some of the folders I don't really go for anymore. They're fixed blades, like the military, like LMF ones. I'd go for one of those for sure.
Other things for your kit too, like we were talking offline. The Katadyn water filters, like the Hiker Pro, or the Steri straws. A lot of that stuff. In that regard, you get what you pay for. I've owned the Sweetwater one with the ceramic filter, and I mean I've ran through the gamut, because when you're in the Sierras, and it's probably the same as where you're at in the Pacific Northwest, some of this glacier runoff, you're getting that glacier silt, that fine powder, is just going right into your filter. And if you don't have a good pre-filter on that and flushing it out, you're going to clog that bad boy up so quick.
Yep. And about filters too. I mean, I have a ceramic one because I like to be able to field service and clean. And also, if I'm using it in a place where there's freezing temperatures, I don't have to worry about it too much. You know, there are those filter straws out there that use those micro nanotubes to filter out everything.
Yep.
The problem with that is that if you're in a freezing temperature, you have to make sure that you keep it up against your skin so that it doesn't freeze. Because if it freezes, those nanotubes break, and then it doesn't actually filter anything anymore. But yeah, something like that or something like mine, it'll work in freezing temperature, after freezing temperatures or whatever.
Well, at night, I would put this in the feet of my sleeping bag just so the filter inside didn't ice up. That way I could use it the next day, and it's not just a solid piece of ice on the inside.
Yeah. For me, when I was hiking in freezing temperatures and sleeping out there, I didn't put it inside my sleeping bag, but I put it on the outside, like right at my armpit, and then I put like a jacket or something like that over that, and then that was enough to keep them from freezing.
Yeah, a lot of times if you can keep it from exposed air,
yeah,
then it's doing pretty good on some of this gear.
Yeah. And your body, I mean, there's always going to be some loss of heat, no matter what kind of sleeping bag you're at. So that little itty bit of heat is going to keep it from going. Just like using a cover, you know, on a faucet at your home where it's going, you know, below zero.
Yeah, but on this gear, you definitely get what you're paying for, because, you know, especially with water filters, you have to be careful that, do I get one that just gets bacteria or viruses?
Yeah,
you know,
although I think most won't get viruses because viruses are pretty small.
Even in the United States, we don't have to worry about that so much. But if you travel outside of the United States, I mean, you have Cryptosporidium or Giardia, but then there's other nasties too that are in that water that can take you down, hence like Montezuma's Revenge and things like that, where you could be seriously ill for a very long time.
Yeah.
Hence why you should bring even back up the iodine drops or chlorine tablets.
Yep, and the SteriPens do viruses. They like kind of mess up with the bacteria or the virus's DNA, so it can't be functional. So that's an option, but then again, you're relying on batteries and the little tiny LED light bulb to purify that water. But it's a good, I mean, if you want to have that and then have iodine as a backup, just because I hate the taste of iodine or chlorine, even after the neutralizing tablets. You know, one of these, SteriPen, use it. If it breaks, then you have a backup. So that's pretty much what I would use.
That's the only thing that worries me about a SteriPen. I just hate trusting something that's going to run off a battery.
Yeah, they have gotten better though, and they have one that has a case that is solar powered, which I think is pretty cool. So, you know, if you're going out extended period of time, you can keep your gear running.
Hence, you could go like Dave Canterbury style with the stainless steel container and boil your water.
Yeah.
Then you know beyond a reasonable doubt that everything's dead.
Yeah, but the downside to boiling water is that it's hard to do that on the run.
It's true.
Like when I was a kid and I was going through North Cascades, we wouldn't be stopping anywhere for longer than 20 minutes. And, you know, we had limited fuel, so we couldn't just be throwing out fuel. So we just had the iodine tablets. I mean, 2 weeks of that, it sucks to be sucking on pennies the entire time. None of us got sick. It was lightweight. And because of that smell, you always knew which bottle you have treated and which bottle you haven't. So.
Now, you know, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of questions about these what-if questions, you know. What if you're in a survival situation, you don't have a container, you don't have a filter, and you come across water that's suspect, the question I get is, what would you do?
What would I do?
Well, that's the rhetorical question that I get, but yeah, what would you do on something like that?
I would dig a hole about 12 inches away from the bank, dig it deep enough so that water will slowly start to seep in, get out that first kind of seepage so that you get less cloudy water, and then do your best, take your shirt off, try and filter that stuff out, and that's kind of all you can do at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in a really shitty situation if all those things are coming into play.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's what I would do.
Well, through scouts and our venture crew used to do some SAR stuff, so we used to hang around, and unfortunately out in the Borrego Desert where I live, a guy had went to the Badlands and had gotten lost, and our crew had mapped out a lot of the caves out there. So they asked our crew, hey, could you come out, search some of these caves for this lost guy? Well, to make a long story short, the guy fell through a sinkhole that was basically one of these caves, but he was on the top. It collapsed. He gets jammed down inside and died of dehydration. And that's a sad way to go. They're out in Borrego Desert where it can get 100 plus. But to answer that question is, me personally, most rescues are going to happen within 72 hours. You would hope. If I didn't have the means to be able to do all the stuff that we talked about, I would drink the water and risk getting Giardia, Cryptosporidium, or something like that. At least you might have a chance to survive, as if you're in Borrego and it's $110 out, or out in Tucson like Sonoran Desert Prepper that gets up in the 120s, and you're going to die without drinking. I would drink the water and risk it rather than not drink it. And I've seen taking classes where I've seen folks pick up water and it's just dirty, but it's good potable drinking water. It just looks dirty, So you can't really tell by, is the water look dirty or clean, because there's running water that has Giardia in it or Cryptosporidium in it that gets people sick. So, that's one of those conversations that you're not really going to be able to answer it until that moment happens. But when it happens, me personally, I'm going to drink the darn water.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of variables later. There's lots of variables in that scenario. And once you start answering, this, that, the end result should be pretty darn apparent.
Yep.
But, yeah, I mean, if you're in a place where someone's going to be in there within 72 hours, drink it. You'll have a possibility of, shooting diarrhea out of your ass, but you're going to be home, you're going to be smiling, and you're going to be alive. And that's pretty much the bottom line. And like you said, running water, nice, crystal clear, could have Giardia in it. I know a guy who is a trail builder, and up in Bellingham, he was trail building. He didn't drink the water, but he was using the cold runoff to cool up some beer, and he didn't clean the lip of it. And the water up here, for the most part, is always pretty darn crystal clear, unless it's like in the middle of whitewater season. So he got Giardia, and they didn't know what the hell was wrong with him. They were like, "Oh yeah, you just got the flu." 3 weeks later, he's still having diarrhea, throwing up all over the place. Yeah, we should probably do a biopsy. I'm like, yeah, he has all these Giardia cysts in his body, and I was like, holy crap. So then it was a week later of treatment, and then he was okay. So, even experienced people in the woods,
oh yeah,
they know what they're doing. You have this beautiful, like, what they think is glacier runoff or something like that, and all of a sudden you get really sick. So I laugh when people are like, oh yeah, it's moving water. Oh yeah, there's bubbles in it. It's like, okay, so anaerobic bacteria is not going to be available or prevalent in there, but there's a lot of other things that like oxygen that don't give a shit. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Sonoran Desert Prepper says he totally agrees about drinking the water. When in Tucson, it's $120. I mean, you could die from exposure within hours out there in the right situation. Michael Perkins is asking, anyone ever tried drinking their urine? I was asked that question yesterday when I took someone out with me in the woods. I can categorically say I'm not drinking my piss. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ain't happening.
I heard that you can, but I've also heard, and there's more numbers and science to back up that you can't. So I'm just not going to do it. I'd piss on myself to cool myself off. So I mean, when someone rescues you, you're going to smell and look like a hobo, but I mean, you're going to be alive, so.
Yeah, I would do that into a do-rag maybe if it's a hot situation and let the air cool you off, but, I'm not pouring a tall boy and drinking that, no way. Because eventually it's the law of diminishing returns. You're dehydrating yourself, and you're drinking fouled water, so every time it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and there's salts in it too, so there's reverse osmosis happening and
uric acid.
Yeah, so there's
ammonia.
Stuff. I mean, if I was drinking a lot and I was in the situation where my piss is crystal clear, like crystal clear, then I might. But at the same time, if I'm that well hydrated, would I be thinking about drinking my own piss? So it's kind of this weird. So no, I would not.
Joshua asks if the portable aqua tablets have an expiration date. Says he looks at his and he can't find it.
I'm pretty sure they do.
The ones I bought, they were on the box. They were on the side of the box.
Yeah.
They should at least have a like a serial number on there too. So if you're in doubt, you could always email or call the manufacturer, and with that serialized number, they should be able to tell you.
Yeah, and that stuff, you should be. I think it's about a 5-year rotation on that stuff. But yeah, definitely call them up. But I mean, that stuff's not very expensive. So if you're in doubt and you don't want to call them, just get some more stuff.
A lot of people are commenting on the drinking your piss comment. They said, Lieutenant Survival says you will consume more water than you would if you do your urine to filter it. Yeah, I agree. Expert Survival Tip says he might drink it if he knows for sure that he would die. If so, then he said no worries afterward.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last fighting breath. That's kind of like trying to poke, a big Russian guy's eyes out, after he's beating you to a bloody pulp. I mean, this is the last-ditch resort.
I'll never say never, but I would prefer not to drink my own piss.
I just don't want to be found with piss all over him, like piss breath and stuff like that. And oh man, he did not go down well.
Hey, what? One chat we were talking about spam singles, and now we're talking about drinking your own piss. So we're covering the gambit around here.
Yeah.
Loaded Fist says you could always distill your piss to make it safe. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, solar still.
Solar still, yeah. So.
But you have to understand, that's gonna.
The FDA requires an expiration date on those tablets, so there's got to be an expire date somewhere on there.
Yeah, look closer on that. I'm sure there is, because all mine has a little tiny number either on the side, sideways on the label on the back, or on the bottom.
Yeah, it's either stamped or it's in ink on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have to do that. There's got to be a couple years shelf life at least.
Yeah, there's some things that the FDA does right, and that's one of them. And then other things they just totally drop the ball on.
But if we were in a survival situation and it was expired by a year, guess what? John's using the tablets.
Yeah, just use 2. I mean, less effective. Use 2 or let more time pass.
Yeah. And as we're talking about this stuff, it's just sparking good thoughts and memories. That's why I like hearing from you guys in the comments section on this. But, yeah, you definitely, on some of these items, you're going to get what you pay for. And then I went to the dollar store, and there's some good bargain items like gauze. We were talking about this offline. Do I need the Johnson & Johnson, or is these gauze pads going to work just as fine?
Oh, yeah.
I think it'll work just as fine. Steel wool, 99 cents. I mean,
Yeah, that's a fire starter. That's a pot cleaner. That's a. I mean, you can use that.
yeah. Is the petroleum jelly at the 99-cent store any different than the Vaseline petroleum jelly? And is what I'm saying is, are the flash points the same where it'll burn or it won't burn? I mean, it's petroleum jelly.
Yeah, you're gonna burn through it no matter what,
Yeah.
right? Wink, wink.
9-volt batteries, 2 for 99 cents. One Duracell, I think, is like $3.98.
What?
Yeah, it's just insane how much batteries are.
They do that because they have like 9-volt market cover. Like, hey, do you want your house to be burnt down? No, then replace your 9-volt battery in your smoke detector or in your taser. You know, if you want to protect yourself.
With a Duracell, they always show like a fireman with a flashlight on his head using the Duracell, right?
Yeah. Jumping into a burning building full of kittens.
Triple antibiotic ointment. I mean, it's a no-name brand, but has the same ingredients as the national brand. So, 99 cents. When I go backpacking, I like to bring these with me. This is why I put this in here. These little Tide items so you can wash your clothes. I do a lot of bicycle touring, and you can wash your clothes in a sink with that. I wouldn't advocate doing that in a stream or a river just because you don't know what's downstream in fish and animals, but do it in a bucket and then scatter that water out.
Yeah, I usually let that stuff drain in like a fire pit if there is one. And that's usually a good place to let that stuff seep in.
Alcohol cleaning pads. I mean, how are these any different than the national brand? And you're only paying 98 cents for them.
That's pretty good. And is that made in America, or is that something that we have to import from like Bangladesh?
Well, I'm sure they're imported. Doesn't made in China, but my guess is 98%. Even the national brands are probably made in China.
Yeah, a lot of stuff are unfortunately.
Wet wipes. They come in handy so you can wash your face, wash your hands. Heaven forbid you got to go to the bathroom out in the woods, so you get a chance to clean your tushy up real good, feel fresh and easy with that thing.
Yeah, I come from the camp where I use rocks or pine cones or sticks. There's a lot of people that use leaves, but the thing about leaves is you don't know if you're allergic to them, and your finger might poke through it, and then you might give yourself a little bit of a surprise. Like, woohoo!
So we're talking about poo bombs now. Lighters. There was 2 lighters in this. I put one in my kit, in the knife pouch kit that I did a little while ago. Cotton rounds. 99 cents, coupled with the petroleum jelly in a Ziploc bag. Automatic fire starters on the cheap.
Boom.
There.
And that probably costs the same amount as like one cube of like wet fire.
16 pencils. Everybody needs a pencil in their kit because ink in a pen will freeze. I never heard of a pencil freezing. So
Neither have I. It's already kind of in a frozen state, isn't it? Since
yeah.
Solid. So.
Plus, you can always, depending on if it's real wood or not, you got a fire starter there.
Mm-hmm.
Even some C-size batteries for 99 cents. So, just trying to think outside the box that there are decent things that you can get on the cheap that aren't going to break the bank, that in regards to quality, it's not going to really affect you that much. Now, a while back, might be a couple of years ago, I did a review. I was at REI yesterday, of course. Remember, I was looking for those compasses. And a couple of years ago, I did a review on this. This is the REI Flash 18 backpack. It's basically a stuff sack that you can wear as a backpack, and on the inside, well, you have to watch the review. That's my shameless plug for the review. This was $30-something when I bought it at the time. Well, they're changing the line, and so now I bought one for $16 on closeout, just because now they just changed it. They put a little different toggle on there and a little different pocket on the inside. Whoop-de-doo. So $16, good quality stuff bag. You could put this down. I mean, there's always a use for a bag when you're traveling. when I'm going out, I put camera gear or a jacket or a hat or lunch. There's always a use for a backpack. So if you happen to be near an REI, check that out. They're changing their line. Be something to
Might have
look
to go
into.
tomorrow. Yeah, and like, you know, this backpack, I think I got this for about $10 used, and it's a K2 pill chuck. I mean, it's a really good backcountry skiing backpack. It has like all the reservoirs for your hydration and all that stuff. Got, you know, lashing points for snowboard or your ice pick or your poles or anything like that. So I mean, this bag is really good, and you look like a normal person when you're walking around town with it too.
Yep.
So
Is there a hip harness on that one?
there is. Yeah, it has a small pocket right here.
There you
and
go.
then cell phone pocket, another hip pocket. It only has one outside pouch for hydration, but I prefer to keep my bottles inside anyway, for the most part, unless I carabiner it. I mean, this backpack is pretty good. Right now, I'm using it as my like gym bag for when I go rock climbing and stuff like that, so I don't look like a weirdo with all the Molly gear. But I mean, yeah, it works great.
See, that's the thing, Andy. If folks just take the time, look around, Craigslist, Goodwill, AmVets, Salvation Army, garage sales, you can find so much quality items out there. There's guys like you and I, they get into stuff, they do one backpacking trip, then they go, oh my God, I don't like sleeping on dirt, or they're afraid of the woods. Then they don't go anymore, and then you can pick up a brand new backpack for $5.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
You know, like, that stuff is great to buy. I mean, don't ever buy like a harness.
Yeah.
Don't ever buy carabiners, and don't ever buy belay devices or ropes.
Yep.
Yeah, because you never ever know.
Actually, climbing harnesses have a shelf life on them.
Yeah, it's a year after you purchase it or whatever. So
I think it's 5 year.
I heard one.
For liability reasons on our channel, check with an expert when you do this. But there's definitely on a climbing harness an expiration date, because those nylon straps, ultraviolet rays will actually weaken nylon. Yeah. And plus use of going through the turnbuckles and stuff. So
yeah, and all the sweat and stuff. So I actually keep this in another stuff sack when I'm like out of season, and then I put that in my basement inside of a Rubbermaid bin. Yep. So this stays dry and dark. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty much I'm going to use this until because I inspect and I go through everything and I look at the fibers because I'm a freak. Right. So if I see something wrong, I'm not going to use it anymore. But yeah, never buy protective gear. And then guns is kind of like a thing where it's like maybe you can use a used one for protection. You know, if you have it checked out by a gunsmith, make sure the extractor, everything like that is all clean and good to go. Helmets, of course, you're never going to buy used. Buy that stuff new.
Yeah, you never want to buy a bicycle helmet or a climbing helmet used.
Yeah, or motorcycle.
And there's a shelf life on those helmets too.
Yep, there is.
The foam inside those helmets will break down over time.
Yeah, that's why I have one without one, just because, I mean, I also like the extra ventilation. When it comes
let's see, there's a lot of good questions. Let's see, Michael Perkins is saying that his wife found a very large pack frame at Goodwill for $5. Woo! We don't use it, but if we need it, and for $5, you can't beat it. Hey, there you go. Expert Survival Tip says, Miltech bag, 25 liter. Did any of you try it? And is it really tough? I haven't used it. I'm basically a Camelback guy. I did a video on the linchpin. I carry that one every time I go in the woods. Before that, I'll grab this real quick. This is another Camelback in basically, gosh, I can't even think of it now. It's not Mossy Oak, the other one that comes out, but this is one of their Ranger backpacks. Very, very good. And if you're a hunter, the fabric's real quiet. I'm a Kelty guy. I have a Kelty Yukon. external frame backpack, and then for internal frame backpacks, I'm a Gregory guy. I have a Z65 that I've done some Sierra trips with that works very well. They're comfortable.
Yeah.
The thing with backpacking, though, what you might want to do is you got to remember that ounces turns into pounds, and pounds turns into a very tired John by the time you get back to base camp. Make your list, weigh your pack, and then start taking things out that you're absolutely not going to need. You don't need the kitchen sink. You don't need to bring the U-Haul trailer. You can get by with a lot less stuff. A lot of people bring what would you say, Andy, too much clothes?
Toilet paper is one of them. The comfort things. A lot of
Yeah.
people bring too many comfort things. Books. I saw someone bring like a Harry Potter book one time. I'm like, what the fuck? When are you gonna read? The time we're gonna stop is gonna be when it's dark. You're gonna be too tired to read anyway. I mean, what
Yep.
the heck are you doing? So, I mean, comfort things, alcohol, marijuana. What else?
You know, the heaviest thing I've seen in people's packs is just, you know, they brought, for the whole week-long trip, they brought a change of clothes for every day.
Yeah.
And that takes up way too much room in your pack, and it's just too much weight. You know, you need a good jacket, you need a base layer. If anything, maybe a couple pair of undergarment, but just bring two and wash the other one out nightly or whatever and let it dry. Socks would be the only thing I'd bring a couple pair on, so one's drying while the other one's you're using it, and maybe a pair of wool socks,
Right.
and then your jacket, and then some sort of cover, a hat, wool hat, polypropylene. But
The longest backpacking trip I went on, I had 3 pairs of underwear, 3 pairs of socks. I had a full pair or set of long johns, and I had a full set of fleece, and then I had rain gear. And then for my socks, I also had liners for the socks. Liners for the socks are really thin. They keep you from getting blisters or help a lot with preventing blisters. And they're also a lot easier to clean and to dry out. And you know, I was like, oh, that sucks. We're going to be washing our clothes, you know, in the streams every single day to make sure we stay fresh, you know, ho, ho, ho. But we actually, no one gave a shit. I actually only wore probably 2 of my pairs of everything, and didn't even think about the other one because,
yep,
I mean, you're in the spring meadows. It smells like tide, or at least, you know what I mean? The wind is moving, so it's not like you're in a cardboard box with like 5 of your buddies getting all rank. I mean, you don't even notice it. So, you know, I go pretty minimalist. I don't even carry a tent 95% of the time. The girlfriend likes to carry a tent. Also, we like a little bit of privacy, like changing clothes and that sort of thing. Me personally, I just have zip watch, and I just get dressed behind a tree. So, yeah. I mean, it's a comfort thing. Some people don't do that. You know, they like their biodegradable toilet paper. They, you know, they like to have heated clothes and all this stuff. But, you know, you go out into the woods to be connected with nature. Why are you bringing all this extra stuff with you?
You know, I tell folks, I don't care what you bring. You got to carry it. I don't.
Yeah.
You know,
all the group gear is going to be split anyway, so you're still going to have to carry your own weight.
Yep. And when you're going from a trailhead that's at 6,500 feet, and we're going to base camp at 10,005, about halfway up the mountain, they're starting to reconsider. You know, I don't argue with them because the experience will dictate, you know, next time what they bring.
Exactly.
Brew Daddy 911, thanks for coming in. He says that he always brings his espresso maker. He says, seriously.
I've seen them.
That's fine. A lot of those are compact. If folks want to carry that and that's their comfort item and they're going to use it, I have no problem with that. They're carrying it. That's their gig.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got their one little gig. I usually bring a Sea Crane little shortwave radio with me because sometimes it's just nice, one, to hear weather reports coming in, and 2, it's kind of cool being at elevation, picking up shortwave radio and listening to Australia or BBC or over in Europe somewhere. So it's kind of cool to sit around a campfire and hear that. Got a question from Dallas Ferguson. Welcome tonight, Dallas. He says, tell me about the mess kits you guys use.
I use a GI mess kit. I don't know what you use.
Actually, I don't bring a mess kit because if I'm on a backpacking trip, I'm using my Jetboil, and everything that I cook, either boil or cook or mix or drink, I do it inside this Jetboil, and then I bring a spork. So it's a spork, the Jetboil, bada bing. That eliminates a mess kit right there. I just saved 10 ounces in my kit. Because you got to bring a stove anyway.
Yeah.
So,
well, as far as like cooking goes, if I'm going for like the dehydrated food or something like that doesn't really require anything aside from one thing to boil water in, I just use the GSI Glacier Cup, which I'm trying to pull out of my pack right now.
Now, Jetboil, I do have the pot that goes with this, and it's like a 2-quart pot. So if it's an extended trip, I'll bring that. Guess what? The lid on it turns into a plate, so now I have something I can eat off of. I'm good to go.
Yep. And this will make quite a bit of food.
Yes, it will.
And then I use my Nalgene as a cup. Put my tea or whatever in there, and that fits just like that. So if I'm doing a solo trip, I go very minimalist, and this is essentially my kit for 3 seasons. And then if it's really shitty, then it's pretty much this. And then I got my whole cooking system. So I don't bring too much. I kind of think it's weird that so many companies like to make you think that you need that stuff. But I mean, that's how they make a living. But yeah.
A great comment from Knife and Guns. He goes, it's worth noting that experience and knowledge will help reduce the weight and the need for excess gear. You want to go low budget, learn skills, and practice them.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that better. I think both you and I talk about that all the time, about owning skills and getting the dirt time, getting out there and learning stuff, or even around the house with preparedness, just knowing where the shut-offs are, is step one.
Yep. And it's and the thing is that unfortunately there's so many survival schools out there, and people that know something oftentimes don't want to give out that information for free, and that's kind of a disservice, I think, to a lot of people, because when I was a kid I couldn't afford that stuff, so that's why I kind of do this, and I do it for free. So there's always going to be more information out there as I see that they're important for people to know, because some people want to know how to shit in the woods, some people don't, but I think doing it properly makes you more in connection, and also makes you a lot more confident, because you see other people with all their fancy stuff, and all I take out is a shovel,
Right.
Don't have to worry about, is this poison oak, is poison ivy, I just pick up some rocks, dig a hole, wipe my hands, and go to work.
Michael Perkins says that he uses the Stanley Cook Kit with the stainless steel nesting cup and an old Army tin cup. I have that Stanley Cook Kit. I think I bought it at Target about a year ago for it was like $18, and that's a very good cook kit. See, that system works for you, Michael. I mean, you rock what you have,
Yeah, and I think
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Stanley was just bought out by a company in Seattle, so I think they're being all made here now, and then
by Seahawk fans.
Yeah, so now they're a bunch of 12th manners over there, and I think that they're actually now making a lot of stuff overseas to bring the price point a little more reasonable. That's good for the cookware and stuff like that, but it's not so good for the vacuum flasks, because I hear that the seals and they're losing their insulation value.
Well, it's like we're saying, once you start seeing it, like I mentioned, Target, something's got to give somewhere, either in quality or something to hit a price point.
Right.
So one thing I looked for, all I saw was stainless steel cook pot, and then I was like all over it. And then it came with 4 cups, and which I'll probably never use because it weighs a ton. But the cook pot, I could see myself using.
Mm-hmm.
Billum359 checking in tonight has a question about jet boils. He says, "Can you use non-jet boil fuel canisters?"
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you can. I've used the MSR ones. I've used the Coleman ones. It's all basically an isobutane stove.
Yeah.
Just make sure, and I'll take the canister off this one.
It's all the same sort of universal thread pattern.
See, same thread pattern as yours.
Yay, we're
We're twins again.
Oh my god! Although I'm black, isn't that interesting?
I'm the gray man. So yeah, I mean, because sometimes you're at REI and the MSR ones will be on sale, or you're at Walmart and the Coleman ones are on sale, or you can get the really big ones that grid goes down. That thing would last you probably 2 weeks cooking 3 meals a day on that thing. It's just huge. Mm-hmm. Won't fit inside this, but base camp, I mean, that would be a great option.
Yep.
I'm going to fold this down and show you guys what this looks like when this is all put together.
Yeah. And it's a little bit past 2 hours. If anyone wants to ask any last questions, it's probably the time.
Rapid fire round, folks. Just got to keep it clean.
Yeah, none of this. Well, I mean, it's late night.
There's the whole setup right there for the jet boil.
That ain't bad.
Your whole cook kit. So what? About 8 to 9 inches long, about 3.5, 4 inches round, self-contained. Everything's all in there. So I've used this on bicycle tours, on backpacking trips, going out tailgating at a football game or a rock concert, making cocoa. Just works great. Let's see if we have any more questions here before we sign off. BrewDaddy1911 says, "Oddly enough, I find my appetite goes down a lot when I'm out hiking and climbing." He goes, "Weird. How about you guys?"
I almost don't. I mean, I know I have to eat, so I eat, but unless I have time to pause and think about it, for the most part, I don't go hungry.
See me, I'm the opposite, man. When I'm out there, I want to get my grub on. So I'm backpacking.
Bacon. You always have bacon in your videos, like the bacon in a bag. You had your Callie Barrett video where you had like a pound of bacon.
Hey, I'm born about 200 years too late. I should have been a damn mountain man with a damn slab of bacon in his little rucksack going up over the Tetons.
Yeah.
We used to be able to buy those slabs of bacon back in the day like that and cut them off. It was pretty awesome.
You can make it like nice, like 1/4 inch thick.
Heck yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my god. I got some bacon upstairs. I'm gonna grab some of that when we're done.
Hey, I'm going pig hunting this year. If I get a pig, we're gonna smoke it. I'll send you some bacon.
Hell yeah. Are you gonna use your Mosin for that?
That's the game plan because I don't think an AR would do a good job dropping a pig on a hard run at me.
Unless you had like 300 blackout, which I don't think you have, right?
Sonoran Desert Prepper could probably speak to that with javelina and probably pigs out there in Tucson. Oh, by the way, his wife did an awesome video of her dropping a deer, I think, at 400 yards. So if you ever get a chance, go over to his channel and his wife's deer hunting. That was a really cool video. Thanks for posting that, dude.
Awesome.
Let's see. Lieutenant Survival says, "Knowledge is often bargain, unfortunately." I'm not sure quite what you're asking, Lieutenant, but, knowledge, it's important. I'd rather have the knowledge than the tools and a lot of things. But that might be what you're alluding to. I'm not sure. Oh, he says bargain for. There we go. Knowledge is often bargained for, he means. Okay. Probably talking about how these schools don't want to give out secrets and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of things that I do now are kind of because I was a kid and didn't have money, and it was like if I had someone to show me cool shit, I would be well past where I am right now. So I'm hoping that some younger guys out there learn a little bit, and so they can go out and have fun. I'm tired of seeing kids in like sweatpants going out hiking, and I'm like, I mean, I hear a report earlier that morning. Yeah, a storm's blowing in. It's like, yeah, you guys are gonna be fucking cold here in about half an hour.
Let's see. I don't know if expert survival tips must be from Romania. He says, I will wait, you guys in Romania, so you can join me in the forest camp trips. Alex, if you're in Romania, dude, if I hit the lottery, Andy and I will be there like tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be cool to go to Romania.
Just don't want to get bit by a bat and become a vampire.
Or Dracula. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Guns and Knives says, have you guys ever done an overnight trip with just your EDC or your belt kit and maybe a canteen or bottle? Have wanted to myself, but haven't done it yet.
That I have done sort of that sort of thing as a kid, doing some training, you know, after my dad left. And that's something that I'm actually planning on doing some videos on, like a true survival situation. So or not true survival situation because I'm going to be putting myself into it, but, you know, without any support or infrastructure really to get my ass out. So I'm probably going to make myself a live destination, set that as the goal to the end, and have someone waiting for me at the end. We'll see.
When I was in Scouts in Maine, when I took Wilderness Survival Merit Badge, back then, I don't know about now, I think it's a little more watered down now, but we had to live 3 days out in the bush, and it was basically foraging for stuff to pass this merit badge. That was a no joke. Crap hit the fan. You want to eat, you either go catch it, kill it, you know, dig it out of the ground situation. Of course, I was like 14 at the time. The most recent one, I do have a video up, and it's, God, I can't remember the name because like over 200 videos, but it's called Survival Trip or something like that, where we took, I'm an advisor in a venture crew out here in San Diego. Took the venture crew out for a 3-day survival camp, and we basically, to get the kids to go out, we did it like a, quote, zombie apocalypse virus thing, you know, whatever it takes to get kids out in the woods and want to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we went out there. You basically had whatever little kit you had on you, and for safety reasons, because it got down in the 30s, a sleeping bag for kids. I don't want to see somebody get hypothermic and get hurt. But we built our own shelters. We had to find food. We stopped at the SAR school that was along the way in Warner Springs. We picked up some rabbits, and the kids had to harvest their rabbits. So when we first started out, the kids were like, oh, little Peter Rabbit, you know, I can't do that. Come the morning of the second day, it was like Lord of the Flies. When are we going to harvest these rabbits? So once the sugar rush wore off from the high fructose corn syrup and all the junk food that we eat, let me tell you what, the kids were ready, willing, and able to harvest those rabbits, and they did. We brought a Dutch oven, we fried rabbit up over an open fire for them. Kids ate all the rabbits. There wasn't any leftovers to take home.
Nice.
So it was a good trip. I challenge folks, you don't have to go 2 miles in. Park somewhere in a national forest. Go 100 yards in. That way you got a bailout point. You're near your vehicle. You know, the thing is, you're not trying to kill yourself, but you're trying to learn from your mistakes and grow from those experiences. And that's how you gain that knowledge and to be able to own the skills, to be able to go out in the woods and not be afraid and do things. You know, when I first started, gosh, I was afraid to go out in the woods. Now it's like I'll go out there and be there all day, every day if I could.
Exactly.
You know, probably the same for you, Andy. You know, you start out small and just keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, although I have, like, it's not a really good character trait, but I have a tendency to go all in to something, and sometimes I bite off a shit ton more than I should, and it takes a lot to swallow it. So I go in jumps, but I don't suggest that for most people because, yeah, it can get dangerous, especially if you're in a mountain environment or in a desert environment. It can get pretty bad. Yeah, I have some stories, but I'm not going to share that online.
Lieutenant Survival says he's a cadet instructor and he sees many kids hitting the woods in Converse.
I see that too. It's fucking disgusting.
So you're not alone.
Yeah.
Guns and Knives says, Andy, your instructional videos are some of the best out there and very well put together. Thanks for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for watching. It means a lot.
Expert Survival Tips says that he can take us out to Castle Bryan. That's where Dracula is from. And it's positioned by, I'm going to mispronounce this, Brasov, I believe.
Cool.
Dude, if I hit the lotto, Andy and I will be. I'll hire a jet to take us out there. Powerball's like at 400 million right now.
Is it?
So, oh yeah.
Man, I haven't ever been in. I've never even been in first class. I usually am like in the back of the economy, next to like the screaming baby and the two soccer moms that can't shut up. That's
Grayman Zing says, when I got into lightweight camping, Primus was the only one using that style of canister, and it's almost impossible to find. That was 40 years ago. Yeah, technology is just, there's a lot of cool gear out there now.
Mm-hmm.
There's more cool gear than I have money to spend on.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's so many different companies making like different fuel canisters and all that stuff now. It's pretty cool, and that's why when I go for a gun, you know, I make sure that it's a caliber that's not like a 408 Chi-Tac where only one company makes the brass and the projectiles, so that I can keep on shooting it, you know, if something should happen.
You know what? One thing we might want to touch on real quick is about leave no trace. You know, when we're going out there, I was out in the woods yesterday, and I took somebody out teaching them some skills, and I should have brought my video camera. It was one of the times we just didn't bring the camera because we want to spend good quality time together. But just the amount of trash out in the woods, and I'm talking about, we just parked a Jeep on the side of the road somewhere and just started bushwhacking where I thought was out in the middle of nowhere, and there was water bottles, there was crappy toilet paper, people didn't know to just dig a little scat hole and bury it, there was wrappers, there was Mylar balloons, one said, you know, if found for a good time call, you know, sort of thing.
Oh, geez.
It was just disgusting how much trash was out in the woods.
Yeah, and
you know,
I did like not a video, but I did a little blog post where I went to a local trail, and I basically went to this spot, and it was only about a mile and a half in, and then on the way back I picked up all the trash that I saw going there, and I had about half a full-size trash bag full of stuff, and a lot of it was water bottles, either full or empty. There were diapers, there were dog shit bags, like dog shit in bags that someone just threw off the side, which to me, what the fuck?
Yeah, this is sad.
Yeah, there was like takeout boxes. I mean, like, what in the hell are you doing taking takeout here? Like, I don't eat super burritos when I go hiking. You know, there's a beer, lots of beer cans. There's a crazy amount of stuff. Some of it has to do with just pure ignorance and neglect, and some of it has to do with people not packing their bags right and stuff just falling out of it, you know?
Right.
There'll be like full cans of beer, you know, full bottles of water, and I'm like, well, you always need to throw that away. You're just an idiot and can't pack your bag. So it's pretty bad. And I'm sure in the desert, because it's a lot easier for things to blow around, you also get some of that stuff too. And that's disgusting.
Hey, got one more question real quick. Jeremy Dunlap, thanks for coming in. He says that he likes your shirt, Andy. And I'm going to add, do you plan on putting any in your store?
Right now I have some on Spreadshirt. So if you go into my shop, you'll see some of these. We have them both in like a regular premium shirt, and then we also have them in an organic cotton. So same design, same material as this. At the moment, I don't have the infrastructure to start selling them from my facility and then shipping them out. But later on, I want to source some printing here in Seattle with some responsibly manufactured clothing, and then have that available. And I'm going to be doing some giveaways pertaining to shirts and possibly knives that are in the future, so stay tuned for that stuff.
Woo!
Yeah.
That'll work. Well, with that, gosh, almost 2.5 hours, brother.
Yeah, let's close it up.
All right, sir.
Cool. Well, I appreciate everyone for bringing in their comments and asking those questions and keeping it fun and interesting for us and giving us some more things to talk about. And I really thank John, you, for coming out on a Wednesday to talk to me. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, anytime. Always look forward. We're going to be doing these twice a month. Andy's going to host some on his channel. I'm going to host some on our channel. If you guys have any topics that you would like to see us talk about, if you have a guest that is engaging, that's interesting, that you think the YouTube world would just love to hear from or about, let us know. We'll try to get them on here. I mean, we had Johnny Barrett on. He was pretty engaging and interesting individual. And we're looking forward to having more folks come on and do stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
I mean, get a hold of us probably through our Facebook pages is probably the easiest way, because I hate to say it, Google Plus comments suck.
Yeah,
Trying to get word out. I have a real easy email address. It's John, Jon, at wingman115.com. Real easy. You can get a hold of me that way. I'll get a hold of Andy. He has a great Facebook page. I mean, we all have those.
Yeah, Facebook page, and then my website has a contact form, so you can also get to me through there. And that's actually probably a little bit faster than getting to me through Facebook, because sometimes I put Facebook away to do work.
But yeah, we thank you. We thank all you folks for coming, and I appreciate you taking the time out to do comments and your questions. And I look forward to seeing you folks on another chat soon.
All right, take care out there, guys.